The roar of my tires exploding wasn't just loud, it was the roar of war. And getting down on the side of my own private farm road, arms crossed and smiling, was the woman who made the claim. I remember the sound my F-150 made that morning, a sharp hiss of fleeing air, followed by a harsh jolt that tossed my coffee under the dashboard. My truck skidded sideways down the gravel driveway before stopping. Baffled and frightened, I jumped out to assess the damage. The crunch of my tires on whatever metal I'd struck brought me to a stop. All four tires were torn to pieces, rubber hanging in strips like frayed black ribbon. That's when I saw them. Spike strips, commercial grade, embedded in the gravel like poised jaws set to snap. Sulking 20 feet away was Margaret Sinclair, arms crossed and wearing the smuggest smile I'd ever had the misfortune of seeing. Everyone locally referred to her as Karen, the recently elected president of the Cedar Grove HOA. Maybe now you'll think twice before letting those noxious trucks ruin our peaceful neighborhood, she finished with a self-satisfied air of haughtiness. But then 5 years ago, builders came in with high hopes and shiny brochures. They built 300 cookie-cutter houses and established a hyper-controlling HOA. That's when Margaret Sinclair came in and it all went south. She started with letters, all on HOA letterhead, printed, all complaints regarding the dust, noise from delivery trucks, and what she called unauthorized commercial activity. She declared my street a common easement and demanded I pave it, install speed bumps, and submit a traffic schedule for approval. I shot back with my deed and county survey, highlighted in yellow. She retaliated with a string of complaints against me with the county, noise, zoning, environmental concerns, all of which were promptly dismissed. Then the actual harassment started. My delivery men reported a woman blocking the road with her SUV, waving demands for permits and warnings to call the police. My nephew Jake was followed by her, honked at, and yelled at for driving a dirty vehicle. Even my elderly mom got an earful for being an unauthorized visitor. I tried to be polite. I even went to a neighborhood HOA meeting, with forms in hand and a reasonable attitude. Margaret stood at the podium, gavel before her, and said, "Traditions and old pieces of paper don't take precedence over the needs of our 300 homeowners." Her supporters clapped. Some residents privately apologized to me afterwards, but none would stand up to her. Then she escalated. The surveillance cameras directed at my street, the floodlights aimed onto my property at night, and even a half-hearted attempt to cut off my mail service. But nothing could have readied me for what happened that October morning. Standing there staring at the spike strips set out in my private driveway, Margaret smiled like she'd received an award. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just pulled out my phone and began recording. "Margaret," I said very plainly, recording her and the spike strips, "did you put these out on my private road?" Her smile wavered. "I have no idea what you're saying. These commercial spike strips shredded my tires. Did you deploy them?" "The HOA can put up traffic calming devices," she said, but her complacency was unraveling. "On my private property? That's quaint. I'm certain the sheriff will be interested to hear from you on this matter." She floundered. "Wait, there is no necessity for calling the police. This is merely a neighborly disagreement." But it was too late. I called 911. Deputies Martinez and Fields arrived in minutes. Neighbors began to gather, some recording with their phones. Deputy Martinez gave them a once-over and said, "These are the same spike strips that we use. Where would a civilian even get these?" Margaret tried her standard diversion: HOA safety measures, community protection, mutual use of the road. But then I remembered something else. "Margaret, I installed cameras last month after there had been some vandalism. They all sweep this road." Margaret went white. The video cuts through like crystal. 2 a.m., Margaret in black, installing the spike strips with care and checking them out. Deputies arrested her on the spot for criminal mischief, property damage, reckless endangerment, and trespassing. The story blew. Local news reported on it that night. HOA president arrested for spike strip sabotage. The video went viral. National news picked it up. Public outrage was swift. In court, she tried to posture herself as a protector of suburban peace. but her testimony against herself damned her. Audio tape recordings of board meetings during which she called me a stubborn redneck who needs to be taught a lesson sealed her fate. The jury found her guilty within less than 2 hours. She was sentenced by the judge to 2 years of county jail, 3 years of probation, and $50,000 restitution. Meanwhile, my neighboring resident's civil action was worse. We found out she bought the spike strips with HOA funds and coordinated it in secret meetings. The HOA was partly at fault and fined. The county launched an investigation. Federal officials even investigated due to the danger to emergency responders. Margaret was escorted out of the courtroom in handcuffs, still going on about property value and neighborhood safety. But this time, no one cared. Sometimes the loudest of mouths learn the hardest lessons. And Margaret Sinclair learned hers one spike strip at a time. Think HOA power trips have gone too crazy? Hit that like button. Have a neighbor like Margaret? Share your story in the comments. We read them all. And remember to subscribe for more real stories in which justice isn't merely served, it's spiked.